6 months after my death, Kevin's unrequited love was diagnosed with heart disease. He came to seek me out after a long time, requesting that I perform the surgery. My sister told him that I had already passed away. He didn't believe it and laughed sarcastically. "Stop joking. A heartless doctor like her would never just die." My sister was furious to the point of tears. "Heartless, Kevin. My sister spent her life as a doctor without any regrets, saving countless lives. And you are the one responsible for ruining her life. This is the 7th month after my death, and it's also the 7th month that my spirit has been following Kevin." The breeze was warm and dry, rustling the green plants by the hospital room window. Sarah, wearing a hospital gown and looking somewhat pale, was watering the plants. "Why are you up?" Kevin returned with a hot water kettle, scolding yet doting as he spoke. "Be careful not to catch a cold. You're weak right now and shouldn't be exposed to the wind." Sarah stuck out her tongue and laughed. "I'm not a child. Why worry so much? Drink some hot water, and take your medicine in a bit." Sarah obediently sat back on the bed and took the water Kevin handed her. She looked at the medicine in her palm, her brow furrowing with sudden worry. "Kevin, do you think I might die?" "Don't talk nonsense." Kevin frowned. "Medicine is so advanced now. You'll definitely get better. Besides, the doctors have said surgery is possible, but the doctor said the success rate is very low." As she spoke, Sarah touched her chest and lightly laughed. "It's okay. Having beautiful memories with you is enough for me." Kevin held her close, comforting her. "Don't think too much. I'll do everything I can to save you. Your heart just needs a bypass. The risk is very low, but my body is too weak. Kevin, I'm holding you back." Kevin hugged her tighter. "Silly." I stood by, feeling so nauseated I could almost vomit. Once upon a time, Kevin had used that same tone of voice to plead with me to reconcile. If Riley were performing the surgery, would it be? Sarah's words stopped there, but Kevin understood. Indeed, I had led many complex surgeries at a young age, been featured in newspapers, and appeared on the news. The success rate would be much higher if I were to lead the surgery. But what of it? I was already dead. I watched as Kevin stood up and left. A determined smile appeared on Sarah's face, her eyes revealing undisguised malice. A chill spread up my spine. The nightmare-like scenario flooded my brain again. Kevin and I met in the hospital. He was just a passerby coming to get medication for the flu. He happened to encounter an unreasonable medical dispute. A patient had suffered from coronary heart disease for years and recovered well after a heart bypass surgery. However, he suddenly died at home a week after being discharged. The family brought a crowd to the hospital, accusing us of killing him. I had performed the surgery. The hospital director, fearing I might be harmed, told me to leave and hide for a while. As I reached the hospital lobby, I was stopped again. "You're Riley, right? You quack. Where's my spouse?" The man in his 60s cried out loud, his voice strong, hardly seeming his age. People passing by stopped in their tracks. I gathered my courage to explain again. "Sir, as I've mentioned before, after a heart bypass surgery, physical exertion is discouraged. It's dangerous for your wife to be doing household chores and caring for your grandson right after being discharged from the hospital." "You're talking nonsense. My wife was perfectly fine doing all these things before the surgery. Why can't she do them now? You must be taking advantage of us villagers because we didn't bribe you, not putting in the effort, right, everyone? Look at this. This doctor is making a fortune off our misery." "Sir, please calm down a moment." My voice was drowned out by the clamor of a dozen people. No one listened to me. As I clenched my teeth, thinking about how to get away, the elderly man suddenly pulled out a knife, his eyes red with anger. "If you don't compensate today, you're not leaving here alive." As soon as he finished speaking, he raised the knife and thrust it towards me, frozen with fear. I was trapped by the crowd on all sides, unable to move. In that instant, I thought I was going to die right there, but in the next second, I found myself in an embrace filled with the scent of wood. A muffled groan came from above. When I opened my eyes, I saw a pair of cool eyes and thin lips tightly pressed together. In a deep voice, he asked, "Are you all right?" His voice made my heart skip a beat. This was how I met Kevin. Kevin's arm was slashed in the process, feeling deeply guilty afterward. I began to take care of him. The more we interacted, the more I realized he was even better than I had imagined. Despite his parents' divorce, he had made his own fortune and established his own company, earning a considerable net worth and being meticulous in his ways. Eventually, it felt natural to be with him. He was so perfect it almost didn't seem real. He would always keep me informed. Remembering all my preferences, he would remember every anniversary and would occasionally surprise me. He never argued with me. Whenever he noticed I was upset, he would come over to comfort me. Even though I was often too busy with work to spend time with him, he would just smile gently and say, "It's okay, I'll wait for you to get off work." Then one day, unusually, he got very drunk. I helped him to bed, and as I turned to get some water, he grabbed my wrist. "Don't go, please." I felt a sweet warmth inside, amused at how clingy he was even when drunk. But then, he uttered a name I had never heard before, Sarah. After some inquiries, I found out she was his first love from college. She had moved to France to pursue her dream of dancing. At that moment, I felt the world was a terrible place. What made it worse was that Sarah had returned to the country and appeared at the same party as Kevin. Why else would Kevin, who was always so measured, drink himself into oblivion? Because she came back with her fiancé the next day. When Kevin woke up and reached out to embrace me, I pushed him away. He looked surprised and cautiously asked, "What's wrong, Riley? Did I bother you last night when I was drunk?" I remained silent. He leaned in closer to ask softly, "Or did I do something to upset you?" I met his gaze and asked coldly, "Who is Sarah?" Upon hearing this, Kevin visibly stiffened. Then he quickly regained his composure and casually replied, "Someone from the past." Awkwardly tried to adjust his collar. But it was too late. The mark was glaringly obvious. "I don't want to hear any explanations," I said sharply, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It's over, Kevin." His face crumpled with desperation as he realized his excuses couldn't mend what had been broken. "Please, Riley, don't do this. I made a mistake, but you have to believe me. There's nothing between Sarah and me." I pulled my wrist from his grasp, my skin tingling from the force of his grip. "I've heard enough, Kevin. I can't do this anymore." Turning away, I left him standing there. My steps were heavy, each one echoing the weight of heartache and betrayal that I carried. Kevin's pleas faded into the background, drowned out by the rush of my resolve. After all, I needed to be strong, not just for myself, but for the memory of my aunt who had sacrificed so much for me. I couldn't let the shadow of someone else's choices cloud my path any longer. I only realized my shirt was stained with Sarah's lipstick when I looked down, and I began to explain in a fluster, "This is not what it looks like." "Enough, Kevin, I don't want to hear your excuses," I said softly, pulling my wrist away and turning to leave. "I am just too tired. I need a break. I don't want to waste my time on people who don't matter anymore." "Riley," he called out my name impatiently. "Can you stop making a scene? I still have work to do, and I'm really tired." Hearing this, I stopped in my tracks and slowly turned around to meet Kevin's gaze directly. "Tired, Kevin, while you were entangled with your so-called true love, exchanging sweet nothings and being her pillar, a family member of mine passed away." I sat alone in a dimly lit hallway, with no one to turn to, while you were lost in your tender affairs. I was arranging a funeral. While you were thinking of how to defend your trivial matters, I stayed up all night completing a surgery that saved someone's life. Juggling between two women must be really exhausting, right? So let's break up. You continue with your true love, and don't come looking for me again. With those words, I turned and left. Kevin stood there, speechless, his mouth opening and closing, but ultimately, he said nothing. As soon as my sister Bella got off the plane, she headed straight to my house. I always prided myself on being strong, stubborn, and self-respecting. I could even endure countless emotional struggles and focus entirely on performing surgeries, but when my sister appeared before me, tired and dusty from her journey, it felt like an army had collapsed. Tears instantly filled my eyes, and I threw myself into her arms, sobbing loudly. She held me, called my name, and gently soothed me. I thought I would never see Kevin again, but in the time that followed, Kevin frequently appeared before me, sometimes with flowers, sometimes with food and drinks, waiting outside the hospital after work. Even if he didn't know my schedule, he would wait, then he would tentatively ask, "Can I take you home?" Irritated, I frowned. "Aren't you done yet? Your beloved has already thrown herself into your arms. What is this all about?" I was already annoyed with work. Kevin's hair was disheveled, his eyelashes trembled, and he looked pitifully downcast. "Riley, I really don't like her anymore. I was wrong that day. I should have been there for you. I'm sorry." "Okay, I've stopped contacting her. Can we make up?" "Kevin, are you joking?" I looked at him sternly. Just because you say let's be together, we should be together, just go, and don't bother me again. He remained silent. Unexpectedly, half a month later, I would meet Sarah again. Miss Riley, my mom has heart disease. Can you check on her? She asked in a frail voice, her eyes brimming with tears. A middle-aged woman, who bore a striking resemblance to Sarah, sat down looking frail. I didn't engage further, just coldly withdrew my gaze and proceeded as usual, beginning to review the medical reports. According to the medical reports, the patient has high blood pressure. The medical assessments indicate poor physical condition. I wouldn't recommend surgery. Conservative treatment is the better option here. But other doctors said it's possible, only with slight risks. I don't trust them. That's why I came to you. Please, I beg you, I'm kneeling down. Can you save my mom? Her voice suddenly filled with tears, rising in pitch. Truly pitiful. Doctor, please save me. Sarah's mom also started sobbing uncontrollably, clutching Sarah's hand, her cries growing louder. I have such a hard life. Doctor, you won't treat me. How can the heavens be so unfair? I frowned in silence. Just take good care of yourself. Living into your 60s or 70s should certainly be no problem, but before I could finish, I was interrupted again. Riley, I've always thought you were a good doctor. You can't let your feelings about Kevin affect your treatment of a patient. Love can't be forced. I suddenly turned stern. Sarah, don't slander me with that. When I wear this white coat, I am a doctor, and I never joke about people's lives. Why won't you treat me then? Why won't you perform the surgery? You do it for people in their 70s and 80s. Why not me? Is it because someone paid you off, and I can't afford to, so you treat me this way? Life is so tough. Sarah's mom continued, tears streaming down her face, pounding on her chest. What's the point of me living, just to be a burden on my daughter? Let everyone judge this. The doctor is letting a patient die. When I turned to look at Sarah, I could swear I saw a smirk on her face. The noise in the room had attracted many elderly patients from the waiting area. Their whispers were clearly audible. No way. I even registered under her name. Isn't she supposed to be the best among the younger doctors? That's right. She was even on TV. I always say young doctors can't be trusted. I heard that just recently she operated on an old lady who was fine before surgery, but died a week later. Gasps rose from the crowd. I stood in the center, all eyes on me. Those looks were filled with blame, scrutiny, surprise, and disgust, and I stood frozen, my face pale as paper. I was put on temporary leave, because there were always troublemakers shouting at the hospital entrance. Somehow, the day's events were captured on video and went viral online, fermenting public opinion. They claimed I killed a patient and refused to treat anyone without payment. Later, rumors even suggested I was corrupt and cheated poor people out of their money. The situation was overwhelmingly against me, saying I was unfit to be a doctor, lacking medical ethics. As I read through the comments, each seemed more ridiculous than the last. Nothing is more feared by people than public opinion, especially for a doctor. Medical dispute instigators, with a few baseless rumors, could completely destroy a doctor who had saved countless lives and spent years studying medicine. I was initially unconcerned, believing that in the age of rapid information, things would soon settle down, the truth would stand clear of falsehood, but it seemed as if everything was premeditated. Self-righteous people somehow found out my address. They followed me, sent threatening letters and razor blades. I tried calling the police, but they said I wasn't physically harmed and there wasn't enough evidence to open a case, so they just advised me to be extra careful. I began to avoid going out, being extremely cautious, but then, one night, I suddenly developed a high fever, and my medication had long expired. I'd been too busy. I had even forgotten to buy a new one. No one was taking orders on the food delivery app anymore. With no other choice, I had to wrap myself in my coat and head out into the murky, heavy-headed night to buy medicine. But on my way home, I suddenly felt as though someone was following me. My pace quickened and slowed sporadically, and the figure behind me mirrored my movements, maintaining a consistent distance. This made me even more certain that this person was after me. I forced myself to remain calm, quietly took out my phone, and decided to call the police. Just then, I received an unexpected call from Kevin. A sudden cough sounded from behind me. Startled, I accidentally answered the call instead of hanging up. As I trembled and tried to hang up again, Kevin's voice came through. Riley, you're a doctor. How could you just ignore Sarah's mom when she's in need? I froze, overwhelmed by the looming presence and panic behind me, unable to respond. Hearing my silence, Kevin took it as an agreement and scoffed. Do you know Sarah's mom has been fainting continuously today and is now in the hospital? Sarah said she reached out to you for help, but you ignored her due to personal grievances, even saying it was what she deserved. I can't believe you're like this, Riley. You've disappointed me greatly. You're just as the internet says, a heartless, unethical doctor. I was about to respond when a dark figure suddenly sprang from behind and grabbed my hair. A sharp pain shot through my scalp as I screamed, dropping my phone. Kevin, call the police. Someone is following me. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a scornful laugh. Still playing the victim. Sarah told me you always lie about being followed to gain sympathy. Seems she was right. The person behind me heard my shout and covered my mouth, pulling my ponytail and slamming my head to the ground. I only heard a muffled thud before everything went dark, and I nearly lost consciousness. A stench of alcohol emanated from the figure who cursed continuously. Think you're something special because you read a few books. What's so great about being a doctor, you wretched woman, in pain? Tears welled up in my eyes as he tightened his grip around my neck, suffocating me. I struggled to open my eyes and managed a whimper, hoping Kevin could hear me on the phone. Kevin, call the police, save me. But Kevin coldly said, Riley, you deserve to die. The call ended with a beep. My last hope was shattered. The man beside me laughed crudely and whispered in my ear, did you hear that? You deserve to die. His grip on my arm tightened, bringing excruciating pain and darkness. I opened my mouth, unable to breathe in even a bit of air. My eyes were bloodshot. Why? Why do I deserve to die? What did I do wrong? I thought I would leave this world forever, but when I opened my eyes again, I found myself transformed into an ethereal spirit, trapped beside Kevin. Perhaps Sarah's words had awakened him. So, 7 months after my death, for his lost love, he knocked on my door again. Who is it? The woman who answered the door had big, curly hair and wore a red dress. Her flirtatious eyes instantly turned cold upon seeing the visitor. Kevin, what are you doing here? I'm looking for Riley. Hearing my name, Bella's eyes grew colder, and without another word, she tried to close the door, but Kevin stopped it with his hand. Gritting his teeth, he said, Sarah has a heart condition. She needs her. Are you sick? Kevin, Bella cursed, cutting him off. It was you and Sarah who blamed her and accused her of being heartless, and now you come begging her to treat your darling. If your brain's not working, go to the hospital and get it checked. So you don't end up with your brains in your intestines. Get lost. I floated in midair, unable to suppress a laugh. My sister is truly formidable with her words. Kevin's face turned ashen, but he still didn't let go. Get Riley out here. I'll talk to her myself. Madman, let go. Call Riley out. Bella stared down Kevin, gripping the door handle tighter, her fingertips turning white. No chance now. Kevin frowned. What do you mean? She's long been dead, Bella said sternly. The person outside was stunned, his gaze scattered for a few seconds before he sharply reacted with a sarcastic laugh. Stop joking. A heartless doctor like her hasn't made enough money yet. She wouldn't dare to die. Hearing this, Bella's eyes reddened with rage. Heartless, Kevin, my sister has lived her life as a doctor without any regrets, saving countless patients, and you are the one who ruined her life. In the early chill of spring, the cemetery was sparsely populated and eerily quiet. It wasn't until Bella led Kevin to my gravestone that he began to grasp the reality. He just stood there, stunned. Bella stepped forward and wiped the dust off the photo, the words, Riley's tomb, glaringly prominent. Kevin opened his mouth. It took him a while to mutter, how is this possible? Bella leaned against my tombstone, sat down, took out a long cigarette, lit it, and with a plume of smoke, squinted her eyes and smirked disdainfully at Kevin. How is it not possible? Or do you think the Riley you knew would abandon her morals for money? Kevin froze, silent. He knew I wasn't like that. He was just using that to cover up his guilt for cheating. He probably thought that if my faults seemed greater than his, I would bow down and agree to reconcile with him. Then he could appear like a savior and have me be grateful to him. Kevin, you're truly despicable. Bella slowly exhaled a puff of smoke, her eyes rimming with tears. Her last phone call before she died was your name. She had been subjected to endless threats and stalking for half a month, unable to sleep well. Everyone was condemning her, trampling on her, insulting her. But what was the truth? Riley would secretly use her own salary to cover patients' expenses, rush to the front line during the pandemic. She often noted down families in need, trying to secure funding for them. The year she became a doctor, she saved an old man with a heart attack by the roadside, but later got scammed by him. I scolded her to not foolishly rush into such situations anymore. You know what she said. She told me, "Sis, a doctor can't just watch someone they can save die. If there's a next time, she'd still help." As Bella spoke, her voice began to choke, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Yet such a person is now dead. The murderer was a family member of a patient she had once cured but was driven to death by their own family. She had performed surgery for 10 hours, standing until her legs were numb, and fainted from low blood sugar right after leaving the OR. Her last phone call was a desperate plea for help. "And what about you, Kevin? What did you say then?" Bella sharply questioned Kevin in a cold voice, causing him to shiver, his legs giving way as he knelt down. "What did he say?" He said, "Riley, it should have been you." Suddenly, a cold wind swept through, and the terrifying night seemed to flood back into my mind. I hugged myself, frightened, wanting to cry but remembering that souls don't have tears. "Riley, Riley," Kevin called out softly, his voice raw as if overwhelmed with sorrow. After a long pause, he slowly asked, "Where's the murderer, convicted of intentional homicide, sentenced to death?" Bella replied, the light flickering between her fingers, her eyes dim. "But what does it matter? My sister will never come back." A talented young doctor died, and the news barely made a ripple in society, yet rumors about her soared in popularity. How ironic, and all of this, because of you and your so-called true love. You're selfish. You only believed in your idealized love, not in her medical ethics. Your idealized love was even more selfish, slandering my sister to ruin her career, causing her to be harassed by countless malicious people. Kevin, how can you still have the face to seek out my sister? Bella stood up and left, leaving Kevin alone, still kneeling in a daze in front of the tombstone. After a while, he bowed his head, and the sound of suppressed sobs filled the air. He knelt there, moving forward until he could touch the letters of my name engraved on the tombstone, Riley. "I was wrong, I truly was. I love you, I really do. I thought you were just being stubborn, that one day you'd forgive me, that you were just avoiding me." His voice became hoarse, tears continuously falling. "I knew you were inherently kind, yet I chose to believe the rumors, and even when you were calling for help, I was still hurting you. The one who should be damned isn't you, Riley, it's me." The clouds in the sky darkened, looking extremely gloomy, likely about to rain. "Now he seems to love me deeply, but I," standing aside, calmed down extraordinarily, listening emotionlessly to his confessions. "I did love Kevin once, when he took a knife for me the first time he met me, when he thoughtfully prepared surprises and gifts for me, during the countless times he spent with me. I sincerely loved him. I gave all my love, energy, and time, but little did I know that just the mere appearance of Sarah would turn everything to nothing." "Riley," he began softly again, his voice shaky. "Do you hate me?" His voice was very low, as if questioning me or himself. I clenched my fist, staring at his back, silent. "Do you ask if I hate you? The person I hate the most in this world is you, Kevin. You gave me beautiful love and then abandoned me decisively. You sought reconciliation and yet hurt me over and over again. You said you loved me while you condemned me, even at the brink of my life and death. You never believed in me." If only he had considered for a second that something serious might happen to me. If only he had thought to call the police. Perhaps today, I am more than just a soul. How can I not harbor hatred? I've spent countless days and nights studying medical texts, and so much time to become a doctor, only to have it all ruined by a rumor. My once bright and open future has been completely darkened by gossip and Kevin's inaction. "I hate you, Kevin." I whispered this behind him. Suddenly, the sky began to rain, starting with a drizzle and escalating to thunderous roars. He looked up incredulously. "Riley, did you hear me? So you do hate me, right?" Drenched, Kevin staggered towards the hospital. Just as he was about to open the door to the ward, he heard Sarah's voice inside. "Mom, don't worry. He agreed to find Riley for me. That woman Riley is just too kind. She'll definitely help me, even though it was me who intentionally troubled her with you. And I was the one who had the video uploaded online and hired people to slander her. What can she do even if she knows?" Kevin doesn't believe her. "I can't die. I've been pandering to Kevin these days just to get more money from him. What else is there to say? Kevin is just an ATM to me. Once he cures me, we'll go back to France and continue living freely." The voice stopped there, probably because the call ended. I turned around and saw Kevin's already pale face turn even uglier. His hands clenched into fists as if trying to crush the air. After a long pause, he pushed the door open. Sarah, seeing him enter, lit up with surprise and began to speak. "Kevin, you..." Then she noticed he was soaking wet. "Kevin, why are you all drenched?" Sarah immediately got up, fumbled for a tissue, and started clumsily drying his wet hair. "Sarah," Kevin's voice was deep and hoarse, his eyes emotionless, his brows slightly sinister as he stared straight at her. "What's wrong?" Sarah nervously tensed up. "Riley's dead. Did you know?" Sarah's face changed, her actions abruptly stopping. "Dead? How could she be dead?" "Yes, didn't you tell me 2 months ago that she was traveling abroad because she was mad at me?" Kevin's tone dropped to an icy chill. "Yes, she..." Sarah's voice grew more hesitant and faint. Kevin roared. "So you've been lying to me all along, haven't you?" Sarah was startled by his shout, tears streaming down, her legs nearly giving way as she clutched her chest, gasping for air. "How could she be dead? How could Riley be dead?" Sarah gasped. "She's dead. What am I going to do? Who will perform my surgery?" Kevin frowned deeply, grabbed her by the collar, and said fiercely, "Even now, do you only care about yourself? Sarah, do you know how she died? You killed her." Sarah was shocked, shaking her head and retreating. I didn't kill her." "Yes, you did nothing, but you indeed killed her. When you carelessly spread that slanderous video online, you were killing her every second of the time you spent spreading rumors about her. Every second you incited those people to threaten her life," he said. Sarah realized that Kevin had heard every word she had just said, without missing a single one. Just as she was about to defend herself, Kevin suddenly grabbed her by the throat. Riley's sister said that Riley was strangled to death, slowly suffocating, feeling every second of agony as she died. She was even sick, and when she begged me for help, I took your side without believing her. Kevin recounted bitterly. "If I had been just a bit more thoughtful, she might not have died." "Sarah, you're also a murderer." Kevin's grip tightened slowly. Sarah's face turned ashen, her eyes widened in terror, and she struggled desperately, but could only flap her hands weakly, unable to move. "Let go. What are you doing?" Several doctors rushed in from outside. Shouting loudly, they forcefully pushed Kevin to the ground, saving Sarah. Sarah collapsed on the floor, gasping for air, clutching at her chest as if in great discomfort. Kevin didn't say a word, his eyes coldly sweeping over Sarah before he got up and left the hospital room. In the hospital corridor, he stared blankly at his reddened palms and whispered softly, "Riley, you were such a kind person. Would you hate me if you knew what I was thinking?" I floated nearby, expressionless, not even turning to look at him. "I am not a kind person, I merely respect my profession and life. But for people like him and Sarah, what right do they have to expect kindness from me? Besides, I am no longer human. Kindness means nothing to me now. Even if they were to die before my eyes, I would only think they deserved it." Kevin and Sarah were just reaping what they sowed. The next day, Kevin went to the hospital as if nothing had happened. He even cooked several dishes and soups to bring to Sarah. Sarah seemed a bit scared, shrinking back a little. Kevin smiled gently. "I was too impulsive yesterday. Sarah, can you forgive me? I've realized that Riley is already gone, and there's no need to dwell on these things. What matters is the present, right?" After saying this, he gently stroked Sarah's hand as he used to. Sarah was overjoyed and shyly nestled into his embrace. "I will find you the best doctors and take very good care of you." I frowned, sensing something was off, and Sarah didn't notice that after Kevin said this, the smile on his face seemed a bit ambiguous. Sarah was discharged from the hospital a few days later and was taken home by Kevin. Officially, it was said that she was too weak for surgery and needed to recuperate for a while. After that, Kevin truly did his best to take care of her, from breakfast, lunch, dinner, and even often late-night snacks. Sarah, being a dancer, didn't have a big appetite, but whenever she mentioned she couldn't eat anymore, Kevin would gently coax her. "You need to eat more. How else will you get better?" Then, 2 more bowls of fried rice would go down. Sarah visibly gained weight at a noticeable pace. She had always maintained her figure, but now she was starting to develop a small belly. It was impossible not to gain weight, with a daily diet of eggs, chicken soup, pork, and even snacks like milk tea and cake never ceasing. As time went by, After 2 months, Sarah realized something was wrong. She began to frequently experience shortness of breath, dizziness, and weakness in her legs. When she suggested going to the hospital for a checkup, Kevin slowly cracked a smile and shook his head. Panicked, Sarah tried to run out, but Kevin grabbed her hair and dragged her into a small, dark room. Sarah fell to her knees, crying and begging, "Kevin, please let me go. I know I was wrong, I really do. Can you forgive me?" Kevin's eyes narrowed. "Let you go? How can I let you go? You didn't regret it when you killed Riley, did you?" After saying that, he locked the room immediately. Despite her cries and banging on the walls, Kevin just sat coldly outside, chain-smoking. I suddenly felt that I couldn't see through Kevin anymore. He had intentionally made Sarah gain weight over those 2 months. Heart patients shouldn't eat excessive amounts of high-fat and high-sugar foods, yet he indulged and almost forced Sarah to finish those foods. It was all to aggravate her condition. The dark environment was likely to trigger further panic and distress in someone with heart disease. He was nurturing her heart disease. Sure enough, 3 days later, Sarah died suddenly of heart disease in that room. After Sarah's death, Kevin contacted her mother under the guise of arranging the funeral. The woman in her 50s still had her charms and took the back seat in Kevin's car. Kevin crushed the cigarette between his fingers and slowly started the car. Sarah's mother's eyes darted around. "After all the time my daughter spent with you, you owe me some compensation for my emotional distress, right?" Kevin's eyes curved slightly. "Of course." Her eyes lit up. "But first, you need to answer a few questions. Go ahead. Did you have anything to do with Riley's death?" Sarah's mother's face turned ashen, and she hesitated. Without a change in his expression, Kevin sped up the car. 2 million, talk. She nodded repeatedly. I'll talk. I was the one who released the videos and stirred up public opinion. But it was all Sarah's idea. She said she loved you too much and didn't want anyone to take you away. My daughter loved you deeply. You can't let her down now. Is that so? Of course. Well then, maybe I should send you to meet her. Sarah's mother was startled. What do you mean? Just then, Kevin sharply turned the steering wheel, and the car, unable to react in time, flipped violently on the deserted road, crashing heavily. The car was smoking, fuel leaking. Dazed by the airbag, Kevin murmured, Riley. Then, struggling, he reached into a box on the side of the car. I took a closer look. It was a lighter. I suddenly understood what he was planning. He was trying to die together with Sarah's mother. He had first let Sarah die suddenly, and now he was taking Sarah's mother with him. He was avenging me in his own way. Riley, I'll be with you soon. Boom. Flames shot up, shrouded in black smoke. The explosion startled me greatly. I was somewhat disoriented outside the car. Kevin sat in the car, engulfed in flames, screaming in agony. Then, struggling, he opened his eyes and looked straight in my direction. As if he could see me, he opened his mouth and said something. I frowned and strained to understand, finally realizing he was saying, I'm sorry. He reached out again, trying to grasp something. Riley. It was at that moment, looking down, I noticed that my body had started to become very transparent. A voice in my head spoke. Attachment has dissipated. You may enter the cycle of reincarnation. Don't go. Kevin's pleading voice reached me again. I merely gave him a cold glance, turned around, and walked towards where I was meant to go, in my next life. I would still choose to be a doctor. I hope that in the world I reincarnate into, there will be less malice towards doctors, even less than before. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.